Thank you, Mr. Rep. I believe Dr. Bitts would like to say a few opening remarks.
Yes, we'll call to order the reorganization meeting and just start by sharing that once a year we have a reorganization meeting where we once again select who will be the officers for the board over the coming year. So it should take about 10 minutes or so. I know we've got a number of folks out in the hallway. This year we don't have any new board members to bring on board, so it's just a matter of working through the specifics and seeing democracy in action for being able to identify our officers. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Bitts. At this time, I will call to order the board reorganization meeting of Mechanicsburg Area School District. For our audiences, I would like to make a live streaming announcement. The Mechanicsburg Area School District Board of Directors meetings are being recorded and live streamed to increase transparency and public access. The live stream, along with recordings from previously held meetings, can be found on the school board's YouTube channel. The third item on the agenda this evening will be roll call, and given that this is not an election year and all of our directors continue and remain seated, we will begin roll call for all 9 directors, starting with Mr. Bradley.
Here.
Mr. Frenchel.
Here.
Mrs. Huff. Here. Mr. Kickline.
Here.
Dr. Lebo.
Here.
Ms. Morgan.
Here.
Dr. Rhodes.
Present.
Mr. Senker.
Here.
And Mr. Rep.
Here.
2.01, I now would like to call an election for a temporary president. I will open the floor for nominations for a temporary president.
Mr. Bradley.
I'll second. Yep, second.
Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, the nominations for a temporary president will now be closed. All those in favor of Mr. Richard Bradley as temporary president indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed indicate by saying no. Mr. Bradley is now appointed as temporary president.
At this point, I'd like to open the nominations for president. The president will serve a 1-year term of office. So at this point, any nominations for president?
I'd like to nominate Mr. John Rupp.
Mr. Rupp has been nominated.
Second.
Second. Any other nominations? This time we will call for a vote.
All those in favor?
Aye. And the motion is carried. Congratulations, Mr. Rupp.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley.
I've done it too.
Stand. This time I'd like to open up the nominations for vice president. It is a 1-year term.
I'd like to nominate Ryan Sanker.
Second.
Do we have any other nominations for the position of vice president? We'll close the nominations. Mrs. Swigert.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 4.
Thank you.
.01, affirmation of school board principles for governance and leadership. I'd like to make a motion to affirm the school board principles for governance and leadership.
Second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Swigert.
Unless I hear a negative response, I will record the roll call as unanimous vote.
Item 5, meeting schedule. Item 5.01, approval of meeting schedule for 2025. I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting schedule for regular board meetings, finance and facilities committee meetings, and work sessions outlined in the attachment. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mrs. Swigert.
Unless I hear a negative response, I will record the roll call as unanimous vote.
Item 6, Ms. Morgan,
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
meeting is adjourned. I'd like to call to order the December 10th, 2024 regular board meeting. I'd like to announce that the meetings of the Mechanicsburg Area School District Board of Directors are being recorded and live streamed for the purpose of transparency and increased public access. The live stream, along with the recordings from previously held meetings, can be found on the school board's YouTube channel. At this time, if everybody would like to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time we'll have a brief moment of silent meditation. Item 1.05, roll call. Mrs. Swider.
Mr. Bradley,
Here?
Mr. Frangel.
Here.
Mrs. Hupp. Here. Mr. Kickline.
Here.
Dr. Tebow.
Here.
Miss Morgan. Dr. Rhodes.
Present.
Mr. Senker.
Here.
And Mr. Rupp.
Here. Item 1.06, endorsement of agenda. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the agenda, and it will stand as is.
Thank you. 1.07, reading of the minutes, regular board meeting on November 12th, 2024. Do any board members like to make any corrections to the meeting minutes? Seeing none, we'll accept them as they're printed. Item 2, hearing of visitors, items on the meeting agenda. There will be 2 opportunities for public comment this evening. As a reminder, public comment is limited to residents and taxpayers of the school district. At this time, we have reached the first opportunity for public comment. This opportunity is reserved for comments related to items that are listed on the evening's agenda for a vote. A second opportunity for public comment will occur at the end of the meeting. The second opportunity for public comment is reserved for comments on issues not listed on the agenda and not being voted upon. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per individual and requires community members to observe a reasonable decorum. If you'd like to address the board, please come up to the podium, share your name and the municipality in which you reside. This is for items that are on the agenda for a vote tonight. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 3, reports and presentations. Item 3.01, Superintendent of Schools report, Dr. Bitts.
Thank you. Several exciting presentations to share with you here over the next few minutes from my report, and we're going to start with some of our friends from Shepherdstown Elementary. Mr. Eckelmeyer presenting, as we have been doing at each board meeting, one of our schools, representing and being able to share with you some of the great things that are happening, and really as a note of appreciation for all the work that you have done as a board to be able to see some of these programs to fruition. So Mr. Eckelmeyer, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bitts. Well, good evening, school board members, Dr. Bitts, Dr. Bowman, Mr. Longwell, and also our board secretary. So thank you so much for having us here this evening. I'm excited to share with you basically an overview of our Veterans Day program that we had at Shepherdstown Elementary this year. And we held this program the Friday before Veterans Day. It was our first time doing this program at Shepherdstown, and it was a great celebration to honor the veterans in our community. So I'd like to just share a little bit of a little taste of the program with you here this evening. Also, we have a student who read at the Shepherdstown program. Hadley Smith is going to join us in just a little bit to read her poem, and she shared this in front of our whole school. So we said, that this evening would be relatively small and easy, so we're excited to have her here with us this evening. So as part of our program, we did this as a community meeting, and every month at Shepherdstown we have community meetings where our entire school comes together, first, second, and third grade, along with our staff, and we celebrate our students. And so we did a special community meeting to welcome and celebrate our veterans, really looking at this as an opportunity for education for our students about what is the meaning of Veterans Day. So this was our first year to do this, and we had approximately 40 veterans and visitors who came in. We were able to get some decorations donated from local businesses, so you can see those balloons there were donated. We also had every student receive a bracelet on their way out that they were able to take with them to remember the day. We talked about, as part of our community meeting, who is a veteran? And that was something that we really focused on throughout the presentation. We also had the opportunity to sing our national anthem together as a school. We said the Pledge of Allegiance as a school community. And then we really launched into talking about who veterans were. We also really focused on the different branches of the United States military, and those who were in attendance at every branch, we would stop, we would have those members stand, and then we would recognize and thank them for their service. So we recognize those who are in the Army, serving in the Navy, the Air Force, the Marine Corps, the Coast Guard, and then the Space Force, which is our newest branch of the military. Do we have any veterans on the school board?
Brad,
So thank
military Brad.
you. Thank you very much for your service. We also talked about Veterans Day in terms of when it's celebrated, since we had our assembly on the Friday before. So we provided that overview for our students as well. And then the why. Why do we celebrate Veterans Day? And there was some student participation in this as well. We go around, we ask students, how could you celebrate Veterans Day? I know many of our teachers also focus on that in the classroom. And then this is just a brief. And that was under the direction of Ms. O'Donnell. She actually gathered a group of students of 60 or so students who were interested in singing, and they had the opportunity to sing My Country 'Tis of Thee, and we'll share just a little bit of that here. Some guest readers, and Hadley was one of the students who, with the support of Mrs. Thomasitis, which Mrs. Thomasitis is here this evening as well, she wrote a poem. And so Hadley, if you'd like to come on down and share that poem with the school board, that would be wonderful. So Hadley, if you'd like to come over here and read your poem about Veterans Day.
Veterans Day is when we say thank you to those who served in the armed forces. We celebrate them because they keep our world safe. Veterans Day is when people hang the American flag. We want to thank the soldiers who served and are serving our country.
Excellent. Yes.
Wow. So Hadley shared that message with our entire school community. Thank you so much, Hadley.
Thank you.
We had some other students in second and third grade also share. So overall, it was a really a nice celebration, about a half an hour that we were able to come together as a school community, welcome and celebrate our veterans. And just thought that this was a great event, a great starting point. We are planning on doing this next year. We are looking at also some additions as well, and thinking about how we can expand this. And certainly we wish to invite more into our school as well. So we're hopeful to get even more in attendance. But I thank you for your time. Are there any questions from the school board at all about our Veterans Day community meeting?
I just want to compliment Hadley on the poise that she showed to read that in public. She did a wonderful job. I teach poetry, so I was very appreciative of that. And I was also pleased to see they're still learning My Country 'Tis of Thee. I was wondering the other day, do kids still sing that? And I think it's great that they still sing that song. It's a good tradition.
I think they sang all 4 verses of the song. So.
Very good, thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
I'll just add, Hadley, we're very proud that both your parents are alums of Mechanicsburg and knew your dad well when he was at school, and we're very proud that he's serving our country now, so thank you. So the second item in my report is to recognize some of our great student athletes. And I think we've said this each of the last several times, but each time we invite Mr. Pahanic, he brings more friends with him. So we've got quite a slate of folks to be recognized. As you may remember, our focus is always to try and recognize those individuals and teams who make it to state level competition. And as I said, there's a number of them to do that with. So, Mr. Pahanic.
Yeah, appreciate you having us again. Hope you guys don't get tired of us. This is a special night for us. Honestly, probably the most busy night that we've had since we started doing this. This was a fall that, I'm not exaggerating, was unlike any other. It was the first time we've ever had every team represented in postseason play. So it was a proud season for us. And tonight we're recognizing 5 teams, 5 individuals, 5 sports that qualified for PIAA postseason play. We had one gentleman that couldn't make it, so I'm going to recognize Zach Rangan, who was our golfer, who is not here tonight. Zach is a golfer for us. He qualified for the PIAA championships. He finished 3rd in the Mid-Penn tournament, qualified for the PIAA through District 3, and finished 16th in the state of Pennsylvania in golf this year. If anybody goes to the Wildcat Foundation outing, the golf outing, Zach is one of the 2 gentlemen that you can purchase we'll call it maybe a lift in your score. He drives the ball on one of the holes, so you might have met him this year. Great young guy, incredible golfer. He led the Mid-Penn in scoring in the regular season with a 74 average, so he's about a 2 handicap, which is pretty impressive. So Zach Rangan is our golfer. Here at our boys soccer team, you guys will know that with the student population growth, we've made some decisions athletically of where we were going in our conferences, and our boys soccer team competed in the Commonwealth Division for the first time this year, which is really what we would consider Mid-Penn 1, and they represented us quite well. I'm going to let Coach Dilwyn Knott introduce his boys and talk a little bit about their season and how they got to the state tournament.
Thanks, sir. This is both my 2 best players. Well, I told them before we came in anyway. So Nathan Babiak, who you'll see again in a few minutes for the football team, and senior captain Owen Reed. This bunch that we had this year was quite special. If this was a football team, we had a good collection of talent, but it wasn't evenly distributed as far as skill sets. I don't want to say it was the island of misfit toys, because it was an island of very talented toys, but they really shouldn't have been playing together based on what they were bringing. But yeah, I think, I guess the analogy is if this was a football team, we had 7 quarterbacks, 3 left tackles, and a punter, and that was how we were trying to conduct the game. I tell everybody I know it was because the genius of the coaching is why we got it to work, which is of course nonsense. What it came down to was we had a bunch of young men that were willing to put teams' needs above themselves. And you think about this, that we had a goalkeeper, a junior goalkeeper last year who played district final game for us as a goalkeeper. He was our starting striker, first game of the season. And we had that across the field. People were just playing where, you know, probably you go, you're checking the roster and going, are you sure you want to do that? Again, it wasn't exactly coaching genius. It was the fact that these guys would sacrifice what they've dreamt of for years. You know, oh, I'm gonna be starting with a senior doing this. No, you're not. You're going to be over there. And they accepted that and just ran with it. And I think we saw skills that, you know, 4 years of coaching, and we, oh, you can do that? Well, news to me. How about that? You know. So again, credit to these boys. We finished in the big boy division, and we finished 11th in the district and got into states, knocked off 3 and a 5 seed, I believe, and they were magnificent. So it's a pleasure being with them, and they're a credit to the school and the district. So thanks to them.
I get to see hundreds of games a year, and my heart doesn't get going for a lot of them, but their first round district game went to 8 or 9 PKs to knock off the 3 seed to advance to the second round. It was one of the more exciting games this year for our athletic programs. Pretty neat. Any questions for the boys? Good. Thanks, guys.
Great job.
Great job.
All right. Next, we have girls tennis. We will recognize an individual. This is Taryn Zerby and Coach Todd Gaiman. Taryn is, she's been here before, actually, right? Yeah, you came last year. She's one of our most decorated girls tennis players of all time. She was a Mid-Penn champion this year. I don't want to steal Coach Gaiman's thunder, but definition of student athlete. I hope she's okay with me saying this, but #1 in our class as well, and a phenomenal tennis player. So, Coach Gaiman, if you don't mind.
Yeah, as a team, we finished with 10 wins and 6 losses. But then at the end of the regular season, Taryn went on. She ended up winning the Mid-Penn championship, finished 2nd in the district, and then faced off against the state champion in the PIAA championship match. So 21 wins, 3 losses. The 3 losses, 2 of them came to the state runner-up, and the other one came to the state champ. So, but yeah, she was here last year with Rima Saha. They actually went to states last year in doubles. So Taryn has a great story because she came in as a freshman and won the #1 spot, and then ended up finishing 2nd in the Mid-Penn Conference as a freshman, losing to a senior from Lower Dauphin. But then the next year she tore her ACL and couldn't play her sophomore year. So had a lot of rehab and a lot of preparation and practice. Came back the next year, and once again as a junior lost the Mid-Penn championship, this time to a girl from Cumberland Valley. And through determination, this past year she came back and played the same girl again this time and beat her in straight sets to win the Mid-Penn championship. So just a very resilient athlete, and has always represented the school as best as anybody ever could.
Unless you want to say something, Taryn.
That's awesome.
Next, we're going to have field hockey come in. We've had field hockey year before. I recognize them a lot, and they continue to hum along. One of our strongest programs for sure. They also moved up in divisions this year, competed in the Commonwealth, and again represented us very well. Coach Hannah Brown is here. She will just touch briefly on, introduce the girls, but they finished 3rd in a double overtime game in the district consolation game to qualify for states, and advanced to the first round of states and won out in Pittsburgh to win their first game, and they were one of the final 8 teams to play. And correct me if I'm wrong, did we play the team that ended up winning the state championship? Lost to the team that won the state championship in the second round. So, Hannah, if you don't mind.
Yeah. My mom is the head coach, Tanya Brown. I'm JV coach. Fun fact there. So, this is Courtney Reeder, Tessa Fleming, and Kate Engel. They're all seniors. We have a bunch of other seniors that couldn't be here. So Seth touched a little bit on our record, but I think most important with our team is that, you know, these girls live by our core values, the 10, what do we call them? The 10 non-negotiables, okay? Be on time, communicate with respect, Be responsible, be respectful, treat others like you want to be treated. So these seniors really set that ground for the rest of our girls, and I feel like that's a key reason why we're so successful is because we love each other and we're great off the field, and that really replicates on the field. So, you know, they were part of the state championship team, and I feel like them, along with many others, really set that standard that keeps allowing us to come back and share our success. So. Also, Lane, you're expected to keep bringing the Ritas because, you know, every time you bring it, we go to states. Yeah, so that's a little bit about us.
Great job.
Bring in the next group. I think they're out there. They're waiting perfect. They're being drilled. Group that we haven't recognized here yet since we started doing this. This is our football team. They, put it mildly, really took our community on a ride this fall. They qualified for the district tournament, ended up getting the third round of districts. You guys might ask, well, that's districts. How the Pennsylvania state playoffs work is because our district is so large, if you make it to the third round, that actually starts the state playoffs. So they were in the final 16. Another team that their last game was against the eventual state champion. I've mentioned this a lot when we bring these groups in, but just to talk about a little bit about our community. The night that they played Bishop McDevitt, there were 8 games in District 3. Most of the ticket sales, I got to see all the ticket sales throughout all the games. They were right around 1,500 to 2,000 ticket sales. Our community brought in 3,300 ticket sales, and we had 10,000 people watch on live stream. It might help that we had a Brett Michaels shout out, but there was a lot of support, and I know these boys appreciated it, but I'll let Coach Heckert introduce them and talk a little bit about the year.
No, yeah, I mean, obviously, guys, as Seth said, we had a fantastic year, and just a lot to be proud of. Great group of seniors. You know, leaders. I think, you know, in high school sports, I think, you know, in public high school sports, talent levels ebb and flow. You know, some years you have more talent than others, and, you know, you make what you can out of it, and, you know, you get the most out of them. And, you know, this group here not only was talented, but they were just incredible kids, incredible people. These guys here are 3 of my captains. This is Justin Bardo. You know, along with the undefeated season Keystone Division title, All-Star, Keystone All-Stars. Justin was a first-team linebacker and first-team lineman. Isaac was a first-team running back and first-team defensive back. This is Isaac Dolman. And our quarterback, Eli Ryder, was a first-team quarterback and Arnold Bench and defensive back. I mean, we had 11 different guys occupy spots on both sides of the ball on that team, and just a talented group, a great group of assistant coaches, and everything just came together, and I'm extremely proud of these guys. So.
Coach Hecker's modest. He was also the coach of the year in the division, which was kudos to him. But, it was a fun fall. A lot of records broken, but like Coach Hecker said, we always feel like when our athletic teams are responsible and leaders, it just helps with our school day. And I think this fall was, Mr. Reedy might attest, but it's been a good fall for a lot of reasons. But I do think our student athletes paved the way for that. So other than that, if anybody else doesn't have anything, yeah, Dr. Bitts.
Can I put you on the spot? I know we had, I believe, 3 teams that were recognized as sportsmanship.
I think there were 4, so 10. Both cross countries were, field hockey was, and I'm missing one, I believe. It might have been tennis.
Volleyball.
But it was girls volleyball. Oh, good memory. It was girls volleyball. Yep, we have 4. Yep, good memory. So that, obviously, I probably should have led with that. But kudos to our coaches and kids for getting something like that. All right, well, I think anything from the boys? You guys are usually a pretty big personality.
I hope you talk more on the field than you do here.
Yeah, that's probably fair. All right, well, thank you guys. We appreciate the invite.
It was an awesome season.
All right. Great things. Well, kind of shifting gears a little bit to my last item in my report, away from student recognition to talking about our next steps and really looking at our goals for the next comprehensive plan. Track down the clicker here. So we've talked a little bit off and on about the comprehensive planning cycle, and we knew that this time was coming, but I want to present a little bit of an overview of our next steps with the comprehensive plan, just so that you know what's coming here over the next couple months, and then what you can look forward to as a future presentation at a work session in a few months. So the comprehensive planning cycle is something that in the state of Pennsylvania is every 3 years. It's gone by different iterations and different names, but right now comprehensive planning happens every 3 years. But previously it was always a 6-year plan, because ultimately as you develop some goals, to be able to really get those goals moving and to be able to make true traction on those goals, it would be tough to do that in just 3 years. So we still, despite it being a 3-year plan, a 3-year plan, we still view it as really a 6-year plan with a 3-year benchmark. So you can see that's why I pulled out the old presentation from a few years ago and just made note of the checkpoint 2025, because in 2025 we will resubmit our comprehensive plan to the state to be able to use as this kind of checkpoint to be able to say what's our progress been, how has our performance been in the goals that we have made some traction on, and are there any tweaks to our action steps or goals that we want to make for the second half of this comprehensive planning cycle. So that's what we'll talk a little bit about here tonight. So give you a little bit of an overview of the comprehensive plan beyond what I just shared, then remind you of the specific 4 goals and action steps that we have in place for this comprehensive plan, and then talk to you a little bit about the next steps that we have planned out for data collection, some of those which have already gotten started here in the last couple of weeks. So an overview of the process, back in 21-22, you all approved the comprehensive plan. We are considered a phase 3 district. That's nothing but they take all the 500 school districts in the state of Pennsylvania and divide us into thirds, and we all have our plan to do at different time periods. But because of the phase that we were in, we were to be working on it and preparing to have it approved right in the middle of COVID. So we actually got an extension on that, so that's why it actually was extended to 2022. And actually, for those of you that were part of that process, you probably remember that it was the first process that we've had that we've only met virtually. We had no in-person meetings. We met a number of times virtually with 80 people on Zoom and breakout rooms and all kinds of good stuff. But it was actually a really good process despite the nature of the times that we were living in. So we brought forward that plan, which had 80 people specifically on the committee, and we called each of those 80 people to speak to 5 other stakeholders to be able to get the voices speaking into that, up to about 500 people being able to speak into what our goals will be for these next 3 years. So we've been working within those 4 goal areas, which again I'll mention in just a couple minutes. But it's that time now where we get to assess the progress and performance on those goal areas, and then we continue to monitor feedback from our stakeholder groups through different meetings and surveys to be able to refine our action steps for these next 3 years. And ultimately we'll be coming back to you here in the spring, in February and March, to seek your approval on re-upping, if you will, the comprehensive plan to move forward. So the goals that we've been working on, the first one is really academic program focused. Our school district will implement a cycle of continuous review of curriculum and assessment that ensures delivery of a program that prepares students for the future. And this first bullet point kind of reminds you or positions you back to the timing of the creation of these goals, because we're in the midst of that hybrid year. We're in the midst of taking our curriculum and kind of pulling it apart a little bit to make it work within the hybrid environment. But we also learned a few things during that time, and we said, you know what, we need to, in this next 3 years, which we're coming to the conclusion of, we need to be able to stabilize our curriculum, get back to our original curriculum, make sure it continues to be guaranteed and viable, but we also don't want to lose a few of the lessons we learned by being able to take our curriculum and prioritize it during that time. So that was really the auditing process, being able to say, hey, hey, can we use some of these insights and also make sure that our curriculum gets back to the stable position that we knew it needed to be in? So we've been working on that. We also have really been focused on organizing our curriculum documents. For any of you that works in a school environment, but certainly in other environments as well, you know that when you've got a lot of documents like that, that you're looking for people across 8 buildings to be accessing, it's a matter of, well, how do you do that logistically? Where should they live? We had it on a network for a while, then we moved to Google, and now you supported through the last budget our movement to EduPlan in 21, which is a curriculum management software that we've been transitioning our curriculum to, which we're in the midst of that, organizing it through that system. And then finally, developing a curriculum review cycle. We really got out of this over the last 10 years or so as we were taking all of our subject areas through the Understanding by Design framework in our work with Jay McTighe. It was really time for us to, it is time for us to get back to a more specific cycle so that we're not just doing curriculum all the time, but we can really focus our time, talent, and treasure on specific areas in specific years and be able to have that cycle that goes through our different programs. So that's goal number 1. And obviously these are just the big action steps. There's lots of other little things and not so little things that we're working on in all of these areas. Like in the first one, you could easily say an action step is really kind of an offshoot of that first bullet of our primary literacy work that we're doing, the fine and applied arts work that we're doing. All of those are certainly action steps as well that fall under some of those bigger bullets. Second one, supporting student needs through instruction. So the first one really talks about the guaranteed and viable curriculum. Here we're talking about the consistent and pervasive instructional strategies that we use to make that come alive. So our school district will provide instructional experiences to develop all students at all levels of achievement. And our focus really has been ultimately to develop a framework for support in academics and behavior. We want to develop a philosophy on responding to behaviors of concern, and then also support the transition needs for all students. I will say that in the first cycle, I don't even have to do too much surveying to be able to tell you that our focus has been on the behavior side of things. We really devoted our attention to behavior and that first and second bullet point, and really in this next part of the comprehensive plan, it'll be time for us to turn some more of our attention onto the academic framework for support piece. Goal number 3, school environments that support belonging. Our school district will ensure access to learning environments intentionally designed to foster a sense of belonging for all students. We will facilitate conversation to deepen our understanding among staff around shaping inclusive environments intentionally designed to foster a sense of belonging for all students. So continuing to learn, listen and learn, listen and learn, listen and learn. But then also in the second bullet point, begin to audit some of our district systems to examine what does access and belonging look like for all students, and then make adjustments as we begin to do those audits and say, hey, this is a place that we're falling short. We need to take action here, so begin to take action in those areas. And the fourth goal focused on student and staff wellness. Our school district will develop opportunities for students and staff to engage in their personal wellness with particular attention to mental health and social emotional learning. And action steps being support the wellness of all students, K through 12, including the exploration of social emotional learning through the CASTLE framework. And then also support the wellness needs of all staff members with particular attention to mental health. So both of those action steps are things that we've been working on a little bit and have taken some steps in, but certainly ones that we want to continue to progress with over the next 3 years. So ultimately, as a group, we're not looking to change any of those 4 goals for the next 3 years. What we are trying to do, again, is to look at what has our progress been, take a moment to assess that progress, assess our performance related to that, because it's not just about completing tasks, but are the tasks that we've completed working? And then also to be able to refine those action steps a little bit for the next 3 years. So do we need to shift our focus at all within each of those goals? So our next steps is to collect data to inform those decisions. So we do have a survey that's already gone out to all staff members That's a more generalized survey. But then we have some specific survey questions and some discussions that'll happen with our teacher leaders, with different district committees that we have, whether that's ICC or Professional Ed Committee or PBIS Committee. They'll have some discussions to provide information. Support staff will be seeking them out to get information from them in their meet and discuss group. Administrators through our administrative team meetings. School board will be seeking your input as well into how we've been doing and what next steps you'd like to see. MAPTO is a parent group that we obviously have a great relationship with and we'll be tapping into to be able to gain some insights from. We also sent out in our last newsletter a general survey for any parent or any family member to be able to speak into their feedback related to the goals. Student advisory will be going to our middle school advisory groups and high school advisory groups to be able to gain some feedback from them. And when you talk about the community, certainly the Wildcat Foundation Board is a great representation of that, and we'll be surveying them for some feedback as well. So what can you look forward to? You can look forward to receiving some survey questions to be able to speak into, and then we'll be gathering this data over the next month or so from all these different groups, and then being able to pull that together, triangulate to find some trends, and be able to make those recommendations for changes to the plan moving forward. So we'll be coming back again January, February time period to be able to share with you where the feedback is directing us and what our recommendation is for the next plan. And then there's a 28-day posting period, if you remember that. So once we present it to you, then it will be available to the public to review for 28 days before then the board would vote on it to hopefully approve it for the next 3 years.
So
Any
are there
questions?
any action plans that you haven't attacked yet, or is that what you call it? The action steps? Is there
Yep.
any, like you're listing like 2 or 3 per goal? Is there other ones that you haven't worked on yet that you could work on for the next 3 years, or?
So I would say that there's some of these that I can tell you right now, even again without gathering feedback from any that we haven't really touched yet. There's others that we have started but need to implement. And then there's, I would say just me, that there's some other things that we could potentially add as some new action steps based on some things that we have done. And obviously there's a few that we've really kind of completed in a lot of ways. It's not to say we've arrived in those areas, but things we have done and are able to be able to assess from a performance standpoint.
So you asking us in survey questions, what are you going to build with the answers? More action steps, or?
Potentially, or maybe redirect some action steps. We're not looking to change the goals per se, but or there's some additional action steps we should add, or there's some tweaking that we should make to some of those action steps.
I've been happy to see that the things we've looked at and done through work sessions and the action items so far have had linkages to these goals. And I think it speaks to the fact that we're working through what those 80 and 500, what the wishes were 3 years ago, and also that the whole thing didn't just get filed, and that it's continues to be worked on. So I'm happy that there's a refinement to it too, so that we aren't like working on COVID problems in 2025 either. So this is good.
I appreciate you saying that. We have long had a tradition here as a district that the comprehensive plan is not something that would just sit on the shelf. It's something we use in every year as we're developing the next steps in our goals, as we're taking every action step. We're constantly pointing back to where does this fall within our goals, and as we're deciphering where do we put our time, talent, and treasure, it comes back to our goals. Thank you very much. Anybody else? All right. Thank you. So you can look forward to that here coming up, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Pitts. Item 3.02, Cumberland Perry Area Career Technical Center report, Mr. Sanger.
Thanks. The JOC met yesterday, December 9th. Actually, I mentioned this in a different meeting, but or just offhandedly, but the JOC actually had a board retreat on November 25th that Dr. Bitts participated in, along with a number of other superintendents. All the superintendents were invited, as well as all the JOC members. So thank you for taking extra time to participate in an evening meeting to help with us resetting things with the new administrative director. So that was one meeting, but our reorg meeting and regular meetings were last night. For the reorganization meeting, I was reappointed as chair, and Mr. Hoff from Greenwood was reappointed as vice chair. We traditionally have a rotational cycle of two years, and I'm in the second year. So the countdown goes on. I was trying to be all energetic last night, and it failed miserably when I said this is going to be really good. So this is it'll be a good year though. So committees were reformed as well, a little change there. Under the normal business, the JOC accepted a clean audit report for 23-24. We approved some related end of year transfers that way. We approved adoption of a preliminary 25-26 budget with an increase from districts of overall 4.94%, though it'll be different. It's different by district based on average daily membership of students over a 5-year average. We'll look at that, I think, next month, something like that. But the JOC had to approve the budget first before it goes out to the sending districts. We approved a 3-year plan of facilities improvements and maintenance from the Capital Reserve Fund as well. Something I thought was interesting, Mr. Wolf, the administrative director, provided an update on the 99 students who are out on co-op, including a salary study, and on average those students who are typically third year or level 3 students are averaging $16.75 an hour while they're out on co-op. The highest salary was a carpentry student earning $35.06 an hour on a project subject to prevailing wage. The next highest was, or non-prevailing wage was $23.26. So pretty cool for the students, pretty cool for local economy, for the businesses. I think win-win all around there. So that was a really neat presentation. Regarding the building project, Mr. Wolf reviewed the progress of the revised designs. We're at a point where the project team has been meeting with the Silver Spring Township Planning Commission as the project scope was, the redesign was big enough that they had to go back to the township for more, for a new approval of the site plan. Following that approval, we are expected to go out for rebid in February, though that's still subject to change. He discussed further refinement of the project timeline and a target of trying to have the 2-phase project, having phase 1 be completed in time to start for the 26-27 school year, and that would take care of probably up to 160 seats of the about 275 that we're looking to add. But you have to figure out how to add those seats so you don't end up with like a whole new welding class that's all one level, and so there's going to be some
They'll phase it.
Exactly, yeah. But I think the good news, should everything work, things had kind of drifted when we had to go back to the drawing board, including the start date and the idea of not being able to open the building at the end of August in 2026 was certainly concerning. Because unlike our buildings, it's sort of you either open it or you have to wait, right? So this was good news so far, but again, there's a lot of moving parts there that still have to all go in our direction, including, most importantly, that the bids come in within the scope. So the next meeting of the JOC is scheduled to be Monday, January 27th. That concludes my report.
Any questions for Mr. Sanger? Thank you for the report. Item 3.03, Capital Area Intermediate Unit, Mr. Bradley.
Thank you. The IU meeting was held on November 21st. I guess it's audit season because they also reported on their audit. No weaknesses and a clean audit opinion, unmodified, which I'm sure will mean something to somebody across the room away from me here. So that was good to hear. They audited over 85% of the federal grant money received. So everything fell right in line. Some of the other items, general items that they talked about, we had a little bit of a discussion about a different approach that they're taking with early intervention and working with the parents and the guardians or whoever is working with the children and working with them to teach them as well as teaching the young students to kind of get a better collaborative effort between the parents, guardians, and the students so that what they work on in school also gets carried over at home and everything. So they've been taking a little bit of a different approach with that. They also talked a little bit about the fall conferences from the educational services. Again, the IU has been focusing on artificial intelligence and just getting an understanding of what's going on with that. They formed a little bit of a task force with representatives from some of the different schools to look at that. They also talked about an interesting book, When You Wonder, You're Learning. And the author of that book either has just come in or is coming in
Thursday morning.
They're coming in Thursday. He's coming in Thursday morning. Okay. So very good. So there you go. Check. Excellent. Great. Another thing is that they've done a lot of work in cybersecurity, and they're continuing to do work with cybersecurity. They're talking about a tool called MS Intune, which helps you manage all of your devices, and they're trying to develop a statewide setup for that. Another area that they're also looking at is cybersecurity insurance and trying to build a statewide offering for cybersecurity insurance. And like everything else, the more people, the more you're involved, the more purchasing power you have. And they are seeing some very good negotiated rates as far as that. So they're looking at potentially making that statewide and spreading that out to more of the consortiums, especially those that are signing on for them with their cybersecurity offerings. And then the last one, I think I mentioned this before in one of the meetings, but they talked about the superintendent's development and making sure that there is curriculum, there's ongoing education that superintendents need to take, as well as other administrators, as well as teachers and everything. And so they went down to the furniture place in
Corbett Industries, yeah.
Corbett Industries
Valley Forge.
in Valley Forge. It's an experience center with lots of offerings and lots of different things. It's a unique setup that they use for that. There is also one slated to open in Middletown to help add with that experience as well. So it's what they call a flux space to kind of shift around. So just some different things that they're doing to kind of continue to address the needs, not only of teachers and administrators, but superintendents as well, to make sure that there's curriculum available for that. And then they reported on the fall festival that they had. It was a very successful event, and very happy with the outcome and the additional money they were able to raise for their version, and it escaped me right now, but their version of Operation Wildcat. They have their own Champion for Kids. Champion for Kids is what it is, and that's their version of Operation Wildcat. So they raise money and use that money to help the teachers in the classrooms to provide whatever the kids coming to them need as well. So, and then the next meeting is actually next week early, a week early. It's December 19th because of the Christmas holiday.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Bradley? Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Item 3.04, Wildcat Foundation report. Mrs. Huff.
Thanks. Our last meeting was Friday, December 6th. Focus right now is Wildcat Foundation Night, which is scheduled for February 21st at Stocks. And tickets are on sale now. They're on the website if you want to go there for those. We're going to use the Monte Carlo games format again this year, and a taste of Mechanicsburg, including our middle school life skills class, will be there to serve again. And board member Courtney Farinelli is the one that's coordinating the event this year, which is just amazing how she's doing it, but she is. We also opened the annual appeal over our Thanksgiving weekend. That's one of our 3 large fundraisers that just got started. And some of our recent purchases have been a new drum major band podium for the marching band. We're in the process of purchasing a new backdrop screen for the middle school musical, and working with the school district and the wellness fund to purchase new AED machines for the district. And the next meeting is Friday, January 10th.
Very good. Any questions for Mrs. Huff? Thank you for the report. Item 3.05, PSBA Legislative Report. I have no report this month. 3.06, Finance Facilities Committee Report. Mr. Sanger.
Yes, thank you. Finance and Facilities Committee met on November 26th here, and we had a few items that we reviewed that will be on the agenda this evening. First item was information only, was just an update on the auditorium change order for work there, and having been there last week. Yeah, last week for the academic award ceremony. That's called. That was really cool to see. I'm hopeful to see the next phase of that. So very cool. Then onward to discuss 2 items which are on the agenda this evening. Or I'm sorry, 1 item is HVAC upgrades at the middle school. We heard from Mr. Longwell and Crabtree regarding that, and that is, as I said, on the agenda for vote tonight. And that concludes my report.
Any questions for Mr. Sanger? Thank you for the report, Mr. Sanger. 3.07, Board President Report. Announcement of an executive session held on Tuesday, November 26, 2024 at 6 p.m. to discuss personnel matters. An announcement of an executive session held this evening at 6 p.m. to discuss personnel and legal matters. Move on to item 6, new business, budget and finance. Item 6.01, Ms. Morgan.
I'd like to ask the board to approve the treasurer's report as per the attachments, which include the following. Number 1 is the treasurer's report for November 2024. Number 2 is the board budget report for November 2024. Number 3 is the general fund invoices paid check number 69659 through 69803 in the amount of $1,164,561.61. Number 4 is the electronic payments in the amount of $9,309,141.58. Number 5, the general fund invoices payable check number 69804 through 69847 in the amount of $342,295.08. Number 6 is the capital reserve fund invoices paid check number 1929 through 11931 in the amount of $464,720.88. And lastly is the series of 2023 construction fund payable paid checks 303 through 308 in the amount of $535,603.97.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
I just want to point out, I think number 6, check numbers, I think there might be an extra one in there. It's
1931.
$10,000 check.
Yeah, that was
It was odd to say, so.
As we catch that, we'll make the adjustment.
Further discussion. Mrs. Swigert.
Unless I hear a negative response, I will record the roll call as unanimous vote.
Item 6.02, Mrs. Morgan.
I'd like to ask the board to approve the fund balance commitments for the general fund as presented in the attachment here.
Do we have a second? Any further discussion? Mrs. Swigert.
Unless I hear a negative response, I will record the roll call as unanimous vote.
6.03, Ms. Morgan.
I'd like to ask the board to endorse the BNS transportation rates and drivers for 2024 through 2025 as seen in per the attachments.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Say I appreciate our partnership with our bus provider and all that. And I heard of some other districts' challenges in transportation yesterday over dinner, and I just was it was nice to be quiet about it and not have to say, oh yeah, it's like that here with us too. So everything was great. So good. I'm glad we continue to have such a great staff that show up and take care of our students every day.
Absolutely. Any other discussion? Mrs. Swigert.
Unless I hear a negative response, I will record the roll call as unanimous vote.
Item 6.04, Ms. Morgan.
I'd like to ask the board to authorize Stock and Leader to represent the district in a tax appeal matter involving a property located at 123 Gettysburg Pike, Mechanicsburg, PA.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Swigert.
Unless I hear a negative response, I will record the roll call as unanimous vote.
Item 6.05, Mr. Kickline.
I would like to ask the board to approve the tax policies report as presented in the attached.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Mrs. Swigert.
Unless I hear a negative response, I will record the roll call as unanimous vote.
Item 7, new business, curriculum. Item 7.01, Mrs. Huff.
I'd like to ask the board to approve the new course proposal for personal finance as presented in the attachment.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Mrs. Swigert.
Unless I hear a negative response, I will record the roll call as unanimous vote.
Item 7.02, Mrs. Huff.
I'd like to ask the board to approve the proposal for a course amendment, media communications as presented in the attachment.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Swigert.
Unless I hear a negative response, I will record the roll call as unanimous vote.
Item 8, new business, facilities, 8.01, Mr. Sanger.
I make a motion to authorize the administration and district architect to bid the HVAC upgrade project at Mechanicsburg Middle School.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Swigert.
Unless I hear a negative response, I will record the roll call as unanimous vote.
Item 9, new business, personnel, item 9.01, Mr. Bradley.
I'd ask the board to approve the personnel report as per the attachments.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Question. When I was reading over this, there was some resignations. Do you remember, I know we discussed this at different occasions. Didn't we used to get furnished with the exit interviews? I know, like you're laughing. Did I just say something?
No, funny you mentioned that, but actually,
Never have.
Dr. Bitts and I have talked about that, so.
Okay, so we're looking into it, the possibility of doing it, or is it not a possibility?
We're in the process of reinstituting a system for doing it privately. So I actually did an informal one with one of these, just to try it out and see how it would go. But Dr. Feldman's working on creating a system for us to reinstitute that.
I mean, I'm not asking for the exact interview, just clip notes of, it gives us a good idea.
Well, that was one of the things I asked him, right, when he took over as superintendent. I thought, to me, that's something, we don't need all the information.
No,
but for us
not
to
at
just
all.
be able to see it, even in an executive session, what have you, I think would help with decisions that we make. See, why are people leaving? Is it positive, negative? What do they have to say? So.
Yeah, we're looking to whatever the system of collection is, then there will be some sort of reporting mechanism, whether that's mid-year and end of year of trends or.
I mean, I know that we're slightly hitting on the micromanagement part, and you never want to do that, and I certainly don't want to do that. It just gives great insight into the overall.
Absolutely.
I'm interested in it too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, much like the 360 evaluations that we get every year, helping us to with the superintendent's performance, just seeing that thing, that this just helps a little bit of information that we don't normally have privilege to and get to see. So.
Yeah.
The one I did was fun. It was good just to sit down in person.
Yeah,
chat.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. answer conversations. Good.
All right, any further discussion? Mrs. Swihart.
Unless I hear a negative response, I will record the roll call as unanimous vote.
Item 9.02, Mr. Bradley.
I'd ask the board to approve the tax collector compensation resolution as per the attached.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Swihart.
Unless I hear a negative response, I will record the roll call as unanimous vote.
Item 10, new business, policy. Item 10.01, Mr. Frangel.
I'd ask the board to approve the second and final reading of revised board policy 008, table of organization as presented in the attachment.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
I'm always very, very impressed by the table of organization by school districts. I wish that if I could hire that same person to come and do that for my anesthesia department at the 7 hospitals I'm at. So, no, I'm always fascinated by these org charts. Whoever we have doing them is phenomenal. So, that's my only comment.
Well, I think the artwork's improved on some of those.
It's fascinating, and coming from a guy who's tried to come up with an org chart for his organization, it took me half the day just to figure out how to get a line from one of the boxes to the other box.
It's come together nicely.
Yeah, exactly. So it is impressive. Just saying.
They're probably happier with you doing the anesthesia.
Stay in the control room.
Yeah, I agree. No, if you guys have anybody for me, let me know. Okay, let me know.
All right, any further discussion? Mrs. Swigert.
Unless I hear a negative response, I will record the roll call as unanimous vote.
Item 10.02, Mr. Frangel.
Ask the board to approve the second and final reading of revised board policy 113.5, independent education evaluations as presented in the attachment.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Swigert.
Unless I hear a negative response, I will record the roll call as unanimous vote.
Item 10.03, Mr. Frangel.
Before I make the motion, I'd like to commend those who put so much hard work into simplifying this policy, and I'd like to ask the board to approve the second and final reading of revised board policy 707, use of school facilities as presented in the attachment.
Second.
Second.
Any further discussion?
I have a question. With being to prepare to submit when those facilities are needed by August 1st, is there some, for this upcoming year, I think there's some concern as how scheduling is going to occur. Is that something that's outside of that policy, or that will just be done kind of grandfathered in for this year?
Starting here in January, you mean? So actually we have a implementation plan, if you will, coming up, provided approval happens, where we'll be reaching out to those organizations that we know have been waiting, and being able to work through that directly with them. Obviously, it will be open for everybody else to come forward as well, but we have a listing of those folks, those organizations to be reaching out to. We also, for the organizations that we directly met with or that reached out to us, we'll be reaching out to them and offering them a chance to come on a Zoom with us to be able to hear the specifics of the policy that ultimately was approved, and the new rates. We'll also be putting those new rates on the website to replace the old rates. A number of other smaller implementation items, but I think that addresses it.
Yeah, I think that and the in-kind service and what that looks like. Sure. Begin the question, maybe to cover that.
So I'd like to point out that, over the last 8 to 10 years, this community has made a significant investment in our schools. And this is just one item of many that but it really shows that our administration recognizes the input and the financial input that the community has had, and really to try to make it fair across the board for our students first and foremost, but then our community to really partake and really partake in our facilities. So this, I commend you. This is, and it's ironic because often the people who are negatively affected by that are people who you hear from every day and who may have the keys. So this just shows that you are being equitable across the board for all stakeholders, and I commend you.
Any other discussion? Mrs. Swigert.
Unless I hear a negative response, I will record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 10.04, Mr. Frangel.
I'd ask the board to authorize administration to delete board policy 707.2, John H. Frederick Field at Memorial Stadium, as presented in the attachment.
Do we have a second?
Second.
A little discussion to the three of you that missed the work session is these next two are basically were rolled into 10.03. So it was a combined policy as opposed to the, so we're not really changing it, just removing the two individual.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on 10.04? Mrs. Swigert.
Unless I hear a negative response, I will record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 10.05, Mr. Frangel.
I ask the board to authorize administration to delete board policy 707.3, Trails and Trees Environmental Center, as presented in the attachment.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mrs. Swigert.
Unless I hear a negative response, I will record the roll call as a unanimous vote.
Item 12, hearing of visitors. We have reached the second opportunity for public comment. This opportunity is reserved for comments on issues not listed on the agenda and not being voted upon this evening. As a reminder, public comment is limited to residents and taxpayers in the school district. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes per individual and requires community members to observe a reasonable decorum. If you'd like to address the board, please come up to the podium and share your name and the municipality in which you reside. This is for items that were not on the agenda and were not voted on tonight. Seeing none, item 13, Ms. Morgan.
I'd like to ask the board to adjourn.
Meeting is adjourned.